Mia Vandeloo, and on December 8th, I released my debut EP, Open Book, which I'm so excited about. If you haven't had the chance to go and listen to that EP, it would mean the world to me if you would do that before continuing with the rest of this video. I'm super stoked about it. I've been working on it for a really long time, and I think that you'll really like it. So that'll be linked down below. You can go listen. When I released my debut single from this EP, Fairy Tale, on November 17th, I recorded a video that was the making of Fairy Tale, which is kind of the background of how I got inspired to write the song and the insight behind the lyrics and the melody and then the recording process. And I wanted to make this a series, so this video that you're on is the making of Match, which is the second track on my EP. So I'd like to start with the backstory behind this song. This story takes place in the summer of 2018. All of these songs in the EP I wrote 4 to 5 years ago because I wanted to start releasing them in the order that I wrote them. So these are the first songs that I ever legitimately wrote, aside from silly songs with my family. I had just gone on a cruise with my family. It was our first ever cruise, and we did a couple of them afterwards. We were really into it. I mean, it's great for, we can have really nice dinners as a family, but they also have events for teenagers, and so I got so into those. I love meeting new people, which if you wanna meet each other, please reach out to me on whatever social media suits you best. But I love meeting new people, especially from all around the world, from all different backgrounds, and the cruise was only 2 weeks, so if you don't hit it off with anyone, there's not really much of a consequence. So it's just kind of like a great situation. The issue is when you do hit it off and then you never see each other again. I have them all on Be Real. There was drama and there was friendship. There's so many good memories, and I've written a song or two about that that'll come later. I was fresh off of that just amazing experience. It was in Europe too, so I was just flying. I had signed myself up for this summer camp that took place at Yale. It was a 3-week summer camp, and you could pick a couple classes to take. They had all sorts of different topics, and the idea was that you would pick classes that kind of correlated to a college major. I think they had like college students teaching the classes. I had never really done anything that in depth. I mean, I was living in California and it was across the country. I had been away from my family before, but never for longer than like a week. So 3 weeks was like the longest I'd ever left. But I just was really into it. And one thing I was really into back in 2018 was social justice, which is kind of a funny thing to say. It's not like I was really into a TV show, but you know, I should be into it more, honestly, but I was really infuriated by specifically unnecessary murder, I guess. Like, I was around 15, so I was growing up and starting to become a little bit more conscious of the world around me, and so to realize that the world around me had so much emotional disease was getting to me. So I pursued this summer camp because they had classes on psychology, criminal psychology, and then I think I took like family psychology and yoga, but I never actually took that yoga class, which we'll get into. My dad dropped me off. I am huge on interior design and decorating, so of course we had to go to Target and get me like a bedspread for this 3-week thing. I'm insufferable. I moved in and it seemed pretty promising. We were on the old campus, I think is what they called it. So they had their issues, but they were very quaint. And the one thing I want to preface by saying, there was a really great thing about it, and that was the food. The food went so hard at Yale. They like labeled it all too, so you could tell like what had what, and I am super picky about what I eat. I am vegan and gluten-free, and I try to avoid like unnecessary sugar and like food coloring and caffeine and whatever. So like it was my dream. Back then I think I was just vegetarian, I want to say. Nevertheless, it was amazing. But that was the only good thing. I didn't really make any friends. The girl that I was rooming with, she had come with another friend. So obviously that kind of makes things difficult because she had somebody else that she wanted to hang out with, and so I couldn't really latch onto that. And actually most of the girls that were in my kind of like dorm situation got super cliquey super fast. And I felt like I had missed my chance to become part of something, and I got really, really lonely. I had never done like a dorm situation, I'd never done like a college situation, and knowing what I know now, I don't think it's for me, but it just was really difficult for me to have to go about all of my commitments and taking care of myself and feeding myself and whatever with nobody to do life with. I remember walking back from my criminal psychology class with this girl, and I thought she could be a potential friend and it could be great. And then we got into talking about relationships and things, and I have never been in a relationship. Just want to protect my heart and not fool around. She was describing to me all of the places that were best for students to hook up without being found out. I don't know, that stressed me out majorly. I'm like, I'm here for a completely different reason than the rest of you, and this is not feeling good. On the weekends, we had the opportunity to go on these trips, which should have been so fun. It was in Connecticut, so we were a drive away from New York, and I signed up for a bunch of Broadway shows because I'm obsessed with Broadway. I got both the Broadway shows I wanted. I was slated to see Wicked and SpongeBob. The first day was Wicked, and all of my roommates went along, but they immediately deserted me. I can't say I put in too much effort to go with them, but I knew that I would be like a fifth wheel, and that just wouldn't be the vibe. But we weren't allowed to go it alone. I ended up sitting in Bryant Park with these three girls who only spoke French for 3 hours. And that was extremely lonely. There's so much possibility and a world of joy in New York, and I love going to New York. To have to sit there and not understand a word they were saying and not be allowed to leave sucked. So I was really down in the dumps. Thankfully I got to see Wicked that night, so at least I had that. I ended up just sitting in my room and bawling and not going to any of the events. It was the first time I had ever really experienced emotional exhaustion. I remember just trying to hide my tears when my roommate would come in, but she wouldn't be there very often because she was always out with her friends. So my dad was there halfway through for a business trip, and so he picked me up after much convincing, and I was really emotionally exhausted. So I went and hung out with my best friend for a week in Minnesota, and we vibed, and I got over it. But that kind of parallel between the amazing week I had had just like 2 weeks before in Europe with all of these new friends, and I was so excited to go and meet more friends and be independent, and then to have zero success and to feel just absolutely defeated and lonely. And it did help me in the long run because I really had to advocate for myself to get out of there, you know, to convince my parents, to convince that camp to let me leave. I had to be assertive about my emotions and my experience. That led to me transferring to a new and better school, and ultimately to complete my senior year online over the summer and graduate a year early, or even to pursue music. I think it was a really pivotal moment in my life to say, you know what, I have the power to change my circumstances. I don't need to be a victim of my circumstances. All it takes is me speaking up and speaking loud enough to make a change. So I'm glad it happened, but it did suck. So that's where Match came in. It was kind of this song just about my frustration with the people at that camp. So as far as the lyrics go, they're very dramatic. There are some in there that I really do like though. One of them is at the beginning, the positive and negative are star-crossed lovers. So the positive was my week on the cruise, and then the negative obviously was the camp. They were so close to each other. Like I had this amazing week and then this really horrible week. So they're star-crossed lovers. They have to exist together. There has to be one and the other. Hand in hand, they hum a strange duet that leaves me sobbing on the ground. Pretty self-explanatory. I usually sobbed on my bed, but now I'm not entirely sure what I wrote faux disease, a temporary conflict, or a minor setback about. I think I intentionally tried to make this a little bit interpretive. The way I interpret it now is that they might have come up with issues that they had, plights that they had, that just felt like they didn't compare at all to my experience because they had their issues, but they were being so exclusive and I wanted to be included. And I'm like, I would rather share in your problems than be isolated from them. That's what it's like, a faux disease. It's not really a real disease. What it really is a temporary conflict or a minor setback. Single soul, a story never heard because they never thought to ask. And then we get to, in the palace of my mind, I've opened every door. An open book with pages full, you're welcome to explore, which is where the title of my EP comes from. And I guess I'll explain that here. I loved the idea of me being an open book, willing to share everything, and I thought that kind of set a nice tone for my first project and for all the projects to come. I am maybe too open about my life. I love to share it all, and I really like to know everything about another person's life too. Sometimes I get frustrated that people can be more reserved than I am. I've gotten better about not showing that I'm frustrated about it. I just had this mental picture of thoughts and my lived experience being this palace and opening every door, welcoming literally everyone in, and then they lit a match, they dropped the light, they locked the doors, and they ran to hide, which kind of symbolizes my just emotional and mental struggle while I was there, because I was kind of trapped in my own experience and had no way out of the emotions that I was experiencing. So the bridge is a little bit kitschy, but I wrote all these songs when I was 15, so I just kind of let them be because they represent a time in my life. Those lyrics are, I'm better now, I've left that town, you pinched me please, my nightmare's done, and I will never play with fire, which kind of gives the idea of having experienced the loneliness that I felt. I would never want to be somebody that initiates that experience for somebody else. I want to be aware of anybody who might feel left out or alone, or people who might be struggling in silence, and seek them out. And when I really think about that, I think I could do better at that, and I should. One thing I am kind of guilty of is finding my people and then being just a die-hard lover of them and not seeking out any new friends. And you never know who could need a friend, so I should work on that. That's just a thing to remind me in the song. Whenever I sing it, it can remind me, hey, look out for the person that's struggling, look out for the person that needs a friend. And then that last line is, the damsel in distress fought on her own, which again is pretty self-explanatory. It's kind of fun because I have so many like girly and like coquette and regal motifs in this EP. I mean, Match alone has the palace of my mind and the damsel in distress fought on her own. My song Doll says, they say the princess saves the prince, and I think that's true. There's a song called Fairy Tale, which is a super like storybook vibe, and that line is, your words are like a fairy tale, but do they have a happy end? So all of this is very like kind of storybook stuff, and so I like how that damsel in distress line just feeds into that a little bit. I think this EP has a very implicit vibe is the word I was looking for. So yeah, those are the lyrics of Match. So now I wanna chat a little bit about the process of writing and recording it. I first posted this video on this Instagram that I shared with my best friend for our music endeavors on September 25th, 2018, which would have been somewhat shortly after I'd written it because I went to this camp in July of 2018, so it wasn't too long after, and I didn't think it was finished when I posted it. I thought I was going to add another verse, and then I never did, and I kind of said, screw it, let's just record it with this. And it's a short song, but it's long enough without it that I think it's fine. That is something that I'll do because I hate working on songs over a long period of time. The only song where I think I actually did that in this EP was Fairy Tale. A lot of times I'll be like, I'll add something later, and then I never do, but that's okay, as long as they're long enough. I have this video that I posted then in the bathtub. I was clothed. It was in the bathtub because I loved the acoustics in there, which was horrifying because ukulele in a really echoey room is not the vibe. I wrote a really long caption that I shall read to you now that gives you my idea about it back when I was 15 and writing this song. You'll never hear me say this in English class, but in my songs I love metaphors. This one's got some backstory that I don't need to burden y'all with, which I've burdened you with now. But there was a week and a half of my summer that was quite toxic. I never really felt emotionally exhausted till then. This song kind of expresses how I was at an all-time high before I was there, hence the palace, and how this situation and those people set that on fire and there wasn't much I could do. Funnily enough, I'm just realizing this now, but the situation I was in was a lot like a fire. I tried to fix it by putting it out or learning to adjust to the heat, but in the end, the only way out was to escape. Some of my favorite lyrics I've ever written are in this song. The positive and negative are star-crossed lovers came naturally to me, and that signified the wholly amazing time I had before this week and a half, and then the week and a half that was the negative. They couldn't cross, but they had to be close. Never mind, that explanation made it less mystical than I wanted it to sound. Anyway, I also like I Will Never Play with Fire because it shows my desperate need to never make what happened to me happen to anybody else. it is also kind of mocking the people that did it all. At least I mocked them through song instead of in real life. This is a little bit of that recording from September 25th, 2018. An open book with pages full. You're welcome to explore. You lit the match, you dropped the light, you locked the doors, you ran to hide. One thing that changed in between the iterations of this song when I'd be playing it was it went from kind of a you lit a match, you dropped the light, you locked the doors, you ran to hide, like that kind of swing sort of vibe, to bump up, but you lit a match, you dropped the light, you locked the doors, you ran to hide. Like, it just kind of gets a little bit more on the beat, I guess. The first time I ever really interpreted it that way was this first demo that I was working on. This was the first demo I ever posted anywhere. I wasn't even sure if I was going to post it, to be honest, but I posted it to one of my private music accounts. Apparently I have a lot of those, and I was pretty proud of it. In retrospect, it needed some work. There are some fun things in here. One of them is that I changed the chords in the bridge just to be a little bit more in your face. I'm a really big fan of like ascending and descending intervals, and I think that's what I did originally in the song, but it needed to be something a little bit more like pow, you know? I think I had also truthfully forgotten what the chords were that I used and didn't consult the original video. Also, there is kind of a percussion sound, and in this video I'm like showing me doing this. It was not me clapping, it was me hitting the granite on our basement countertop. And I told that to Lego, my producer, and he was like, let's do that. So I just hit the table in the final recording as well, which is fun to kind of carry that over. There are a lot of things that I did in the original demos that I ended up doing in the actual recording, which is kind of fun because all of these demos are so shoddy, and so to carry that through into a really well-produced and mixed song is so fun for me. The final thing that is just a fun tidbit is when I decided to pursue music, I was like, I need a little studio for myself to record in, to edit music in, whatever. And I had this little storage space. It was so weird. In my bathroom, there was a linen closet, and then inside the linen closet, there was a little door, and you couldn't stand up in there. It was like maybe kneeling, head wouldn't hit the ceiling, and it was like a sloped thing. So it was like really not the kind of space you hang out in. But I was like, I'm not using it for anything. Let's turn it into a studio. My mom was like, yes, I love a project. So we decided that the first step was to paint the walls. For some reason, we decided that normal paint wouldn't work. Furthermore, there was no ventilation in there. So we put a fan outside of the linen closet. We put on N95s and we spray painted it, which was probably one of the worst decisions I and we have ever made. We got really high. I have never really been high. I don't do drugs. My sister was terrified actually because we were downstairs and we could not stop laughing. We just, like, something got into us. It was like that one scene in Mary Poppins with the guy that like floats up to the ceiling because he's laughing so much, which now that I think about it, maybe he had inhaled some things. But anyway, let's not ruin my childhood memories. I was in the basement recording this, is the story there. You didn't need that, but it's fun. Until we got into the studio. I worked on Match as the second song. We worked on Fairy Tale first. I wanted it to set the tone for the rest of the project, but then we jumped into Match next because both with Lullaby and Goodbye Friend, which were the other songs that we were recording in November, I really wanted to put a new spin on them, so I thought, okay, let's do Match because I'm confident about it, and then we'll jump into the ones I'm not so sure about. In this one, you can really hear the table slaps, which is so fun. There are also like some noises in the background that you can really hear in this one that kind of sounds like construction, but I ended up liking it a little bit. You can't hear it too much in the final recording until like the chorusy part, like the second chorus, but I really liked it because while it doesn't give the vibe of fire, it kind of has that chaos. It's not so pristine. This is kind of a really out there interpretation, but I was like, it's like they're reconstructing the building that they burned down. So I thought that was cool. So I left them in. Some other things was in the bridge, it was so empty. I hadn't recorded any harmonies for that on the first day, so I was like, this needs some help. There also is no like build into the final chorus. It's like the damsel in distress fought on her own. The damsel in distress fought on her own. In the palace of my mind, I've opened every door. The version that came into existence on November 11th, which was my last day in the studio, had some more harmonies in there, especially this last part in the bridge. I kind of added this harmony in, and I felt kind of self-conscious because I didn't want to spend too much time on the harmonies because I hadn't really thought them through, and I didn't want to waste any time. So this was the only one that I kind of had in my brain that we could do, and I kind of just left it as is. And the harmonies in the chorus really just amplify the song, give it so much more life and oomph. In the palace of my mind, I've opened every door. An open book with pages full. You're welcome to explore. You lit a match, you dropped the light, you locked the doors, you ran to hide. So we didn't really touch match for a while. We had finished Fairy Tale in like April, just kind of bouncing ideas back and forth. I had decided we need to fill up match. The bridge is empty as heck. We have this harmony kind of thing at the end, but it needs so much more. I also wanted to record Doll, so I went back in July and I wanted to add in these harmonies for match, and so I kind of just recorded this thing on GarageBand that ended up being almost exactly what I recorded in the studio, just because it was so much easier to be able to listen to each individual part and then do it. So the way I would do it in the studio is I'd be like, okay, let me listen to this section. I would just isolate that one harmony line, but I would need to like have a minute to get it in my head, you know? So it was just like really just, we kind of kept it flowing. And then I would sing it a couple times and then I'd be like, cool. And then we'd do it again. I'd be like, okay, let me listen. All right, I'm ready, we do it. And that probably was a process that took about 45 minutes, but I'm so happy with the result. They are really loud in this version, so you can really hear them. We toned them down a little bit in the final recording because I didn't want them to overpower it, but they're really cool. I was also able to find the demo that I recorded for Lego of the background vocals that I was kind of thinking about. In this one you can hear them a lot more. They are a little bit pitchier, I think, and not as well edited, but you can hear more, so it's fun to hear the individual parts. The fourth draft before we landed on the final version of Match was sent to me on August 24th of 2023. One thing that was finally fixed that I don't think I've really shown you, in the first verse, it was always faux dizzy, like the S wasn't in there, so that was finally fixed, which was so satisfying. The harmonies got toned down, which is good, and there was kind of an echo thing going on throughout the entire song. It wasn't a reverb, it was an echo. Sabotage, the positive and negative. That got toned down quite a bit too, which is good. So this is pretty close to the final version, it just wasn't mastered, obviously. To the final master. This song turned out to be a lot darker than I expected it to be, especially in the beginning. The first like da 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 na 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 na. It sounds like it should be in a Disney Channel Halloween movie, which, you know, at least all my songs aren't like legitimately creepy, like they're Disney Channel creepy, but I don't totally mind it. I always kind of wished I could write like this, and then it showed up like that. And I think the rest of the songs on the EP, namely Goodbye Friend, Lullaby, and Doll, kind of make up for the darkness of Fairy Tale and Match. I was a little bit skeptical to put Fairy Tale and Match as the first two tracks because they have that similar vibe, and then the rest of it gets into something a little bit different. Also, when I'm playing them live, I never play Fairy Tale and Match back to back because they have a similar chord progression. It was interesting to order the EP the way I did because when I play them live, usually the order I do it in is Fairy Tale, Goodbye Friend, Doll, Lullaby, Match. Just because of the way the chord progressions go, and because normally I'll play Match like sabotage, the positive and negative, and then Goodbye Friend is also. So I don't want to like do that same strumming pattern in each of them, and then also you can hear like if I were to play Fairy Tale, Doll, and Match back to back, this is Fairy Tale. And then you have Match. And then you have Doll, which is. Similar. So I never play them in the order that I have done the EP, but just the way they got produced, that made the most sense. That is Match. I hope you enjoy it. I hope that if you ever felt isolated, this song can just be kind of a piece to you, and I hope that this song would remind you not to do that to other people, to reach out, to be a friend. Thank you so much for sticking around to watch this video, to hear about all of the making of Match. Please go listen to my EP. It would mean the world. I am on track to do this as my career, and the more you listen and repost on your stories, post them on your playlists, listen to all these videos, listen to the songs a million times, share them with your friends, the closer I am to being able to do this full-time. I will commit to doing this full-time as soon as I can, so showing your support means the world. Even if it's just a kind word, I thank you for that, and I thank you for being around, whether you've been here for the last 2 years or longer than that before I started pursuing music, or whether you found me through this EP. Thank you for being here. I am so happy you're here. I would love to get to know you, so like I said at the beginning of the video, reach out to me. I'm best on Instagram, but reach out on whatever social platform you want. And stay tuned for the rest of the making of videos. You'll get to hear some more about Doll and Goodbye Friend and Lullaby. I love you. Bye.